As we await President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address, the state of the country is not pleasant. Ramaphosa will deliver his State of the Nation address on Thursday. The address comes at a time where the country is facing an unprecedented electricity crisis. The issue will definitely be talking point, as many want to know what tangible plans there are to address it. Unemployment is also a major crisis the country is facing, with many calling for government to introduce a basic income grant. We are joined by Dr. Trevor Ngwane, who's the director for the Centre for Sociological Research and Practice at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you so much for your time, Doctor. We do appreciate it. I think the first question is, what state is this country really in, and what kind of message is the President going to give South Africans come Thursday, given the many challenges we are facing?
Thank you, Heidi, and good afternoon to your audience. Yeah, the nation is in crisis, unfortunately, and even the ANC admits it. You know, it has moved from denialism to reality. Of course, there are still pockets of denialism, but what is the tragedy is that when the nation is in crisis, the brunt of it is carried by the working class and the poor. So I expect that the president will try and assure, people that the ANC government is doing all it can to address the issues and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
So the energy crisis is probably going to be top of the agenda. We also have been hearing some remarks by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana that there might be a possible scrapping of Eskom's debts, which we do know is a massive stumbling block in trying to get Eskom's finances in order. But that's definitely going to be top of the agenda, would you say, about how the president is going to convince South Africans and probably the government itself that it has a handle on this energy crisis and it's able to do away with the constant rolling blackouts?
Yes, Heidi. But now the problem with the ANC top leadership, they are now suffering from a disease I can call electoral paranoia. So with the 2024 national elections coming, they are starting to think that they will definitely lose their majority in parliament. So it's panic stations all around, which means that on the one hand, the leadership, including the president at the helm, are willing to take, serious steps, significant steps to address crises such as the energy crisis. But on the other hand, for the ANC to really address the crisis, it would have to change from what it is, because basically, it's a bourgeois political party controlled by the aspirant black bourgeoisie. It is inept, it is incompetent and corrupt. It has no vision. But of course, we cannot be cynical because, it is almost going to go down with the whole of us. So maybe it's an opportunity for us to put more demands and to tell the leadership of the ANC what to do, to get it out of its quagmire by addressing the problems of the country in a way which finds solutions.
What would you say would be another big headache and issue that the president needs to urgently address in his State of the Nation address on Thursday, other than the energy crisis?
Well, like I said, unfortunately, all the crises, the brunt of it are carried by the working class and the poor. For example, with energy, we have something called energy racism, where black working class areas suffer more from the power failures, from poor servicing. But in general, I would say, poor people in South Africa, are having a real hard time. So suggestions of basic income grant, job creation, massive distribution, of the wealth, reorganizing of the budget to benefit the poor and pull them out of their misery, poverty and suffering. I think this is the real issue. Remember the July days when people attacked the malls. So clearly the people, are suffering.
Certainly, and it speaks to the inequality and the poverty and the unemployment that millions face. And I want us to maybe speak a little bit about unemployment. It's almost as though, because of how serious the energy crisis is, we kind of forget about the serious unemployment that the challenge that we have in this country. Is this something that the president also needs to put emphasis on?
Yes, he must. Unfortunately, the vision of the ANC is just to build a capitalist country where the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and to create space for the aspirant black bourgeoisie to have some space, at the table of white monopoly capital. I think that's the problem. But I think this suggests that our problem is really for the masses of the people. It's a political problem. What are the priorities of the government? Actually, the question is, who is in charge on behalf of who? Who has the power to change things around in favor of the majority of the people? I think this is a question Ramaphosa won't be able to answer because he has chosen his side, which is to work for the rich and not for the poor.
Would you say that, I think there will be more details during the budget speech that's happening at the end of this month, but would you say that the president might, I don't want to use the word punish, but might be a little bit harder on the richer when it comes to those in this country to try and do something for those that are unemployed and that are struggling and that are in really difficult positions? There have been calls for there to be some kind of grant, especially for those that are struggling, or to extend that 350 Rand grant. Do you think that that is something this country should be doing and can afford to be doing?
The country can certainly afford a basic income grant. The country can certainly afford to move a lot of money to benefit the poor, to benefit the working class. So that's what I was saying, Heidi, about us, not being cynical, because basically this electoral paranoia of the ANC means that they are open to pressure, from below. So I'm hoping that, civil society organizations, trade unions, working class formations, even experts can put pressure on Ramaphosa and the ANC to actually do the right thing, which is to address the plight of the millions and millions of the poor, the unemployed, and basically the disheartened.
Do you think that that's going to happen, though, Doctor? And I speak with a little bit of caution, because we always do know that during the State of the Nation address in the beginning, when the president took over, he had all these grand promises. And a couple of years later, everybody's looking at the president going, but what is actually being done here? Because our economy is in tatters. Yes, it was the COVID-19 pandemic that, of course, did not make things easier. And now we have an energy crisis, and it almost seems as though every sector of our economy and every part of our country is deteriorating and not coping. Do you think the president will be able to, present an honest and frank state of the nation with tangible solutions?
Well, on the one hand, a lot of these problems were brought into the country by the ANC itself, in the manner in which it dealt with the transition from apartheid to democracy, in the way in which they dealt with the redistribution of wealth. But you must also locate the crisis within the global sphere, where we find, global economies, the capitalist system all over the world, being in crisis, Russian invasion of Russia. So basically, you need a different kind of leadership, a stronger leadership, with more guts. And I don't think that the ANC, with more vision, I don't think that the ANC has got that. So unfortunately, in my opinion, the ANC is irredeemable. And I think that, we should all be thinking hard, what could be the alternative, who must take power when we get rid of the ANC.
So I want to divert a little bit, but you keep speaking about the ANC as a party and how there needs to be some kind of self-reflection. We do know that the president is most likely going to reshuffle his cabinet, and many are saying, well, that's not really going to change anything because at the end of the day, the problems remain the same. It's just the ministers that keep changing. Do you think that with the new leadership that's going to come in, I mean, we don't know who is going to be reshuffled and who will come in and who will go out, but do you think that that kind of provides some kind of confidence that the president is doing something about it, or you just think it's almost a default action because of what happened at the ANC conference?
Well, the way history happens, Heidi, is that, there's the big events, but these events consist of small molecular, movements. So it does matter, who replaces, the basically useless Didi Mabuza as vice president. It does matter, who, I don't know, environmentalists are dreaming maybe get rid of Mantashe. It would matter if Gwede Mantashe was removed from that portfolio. So, I think that it is still important for us to pay attention to who takes over, who gets moved out. And let's hope that more visionary, more courageous people, take over. Because, what they do matters. This is the point. We have to drive home to the ANC as the party. So these are not simply technical problems. These are not, they cannot be solved through technicists or in a technocratic manner. They need political decisions. So we need a government, a party which is running the country, towards solutions. At the moment, the ANC is lacking there. And I think that we should encourage it to get back its courage, its vision, and to do what is good for the country.
Just lastly, Doctor, so we do know the president obviously is going to deliver his State of the Nation on Thursday, and many are going to be watching eagerly. But I just want to speak about the fact that the most vulnerable in our society, those that are in desperate need of healthcare, of transport, of basic service delivery, and that is being neglected in many parts of our country, in most of our provinces, in fact. How crucial is it for the president to not neglect those in the most vulnerable positions and that are in desperate need of a functioning government?
Well, he shouldn't. I mean, the ANC has been doing this since the day it took over. I mean, it took over, it had the Reconstruction and Development Program, it threw it away, opting for gear, top-down policy which favors the rich. So the president must really address the needs of the poor. But I think that, the poor, the working class, they also have agency, autonomy. They can also change history. So I think that given what the ANC will say, I think the response should be strong. The trade unions, the civics, the movements must actually come together, in their various localities, even regionally, nationally, provincially, and actually challenge government policy. I think the time has come now for everyone to stand up because, when the lights go out, you can't sleep thinking when you wake up, someone will solve it for you. So everyone must take action, take a stand. Everyone must think clearly what are the solutions and then organize and mobilize to get those solutions to be implemented, even against the will of the ANC or whoever is in power.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see what comes on Thursday. But thank you so much for your insights this evening. That was Dr. Trevor Ngwane, who is the Director for the Centre of Sociological Research and Practice at the University of Johannesburg.